Now that that's in motion, if at any time, like I said, if anybody's having any issues viewing this presentation clearly, please put that in the chat and I will share that YouTube live link. All right, so if this is the first time that you've logged in to lausd.zoom.us and you click sign in and you sign in with your LAUSD single sign-on, you're going to be asked to verify your uh, email address and to sync your account. Yes, you want to sync, and then you're going to want to go into your LAUSD inbox, look for the email from Zoom, and there will be a big blue button in there that you're going to click to verify, and that will transition your regular Zoom account into an lausd.zoom.us account. Now, the immediate difference is if you look at the upper right-hand corner and click on your avatar that represents you, you'll see you are now licensed uh, to use the full features of Zoom. And we'll talk a little bit about what those are. So this is what you should see, your LAUSD email address and your license once your account has been converted over into the lausd.zoom.us account. If you're having trouble finding that email, please check your spam folder and your clutter folder. Most of the time, for whatever reason, that email gets stuck in one of those two places. You should see it between 3 to 5 minutes after clicking on verify my email address. All right, I think I'm a little too big on the screen, so there we go. All right, so what should we get to know in this lausd.zoom.us user interface? The first thing I want to call your attention to are the menu items on the left-hand side. Profile, meetings, webinars, recordings, settings, account profile, and reports. And then on the right-hand side, the option to host a meeting through the browser window, to join a meeting through the browser window, and to schedule upcoming meetings. A little later, when we're back in Schoology, or when we're in Schoology, I will show you how to use the external tool to schedule out all your meetings from now until the end of the semester. So you'll only have to do it once per course or period. All right, so first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that our settings are uh, set up correctly to that of the recommendations from ITD. So we're going to go down to our settings section, again on the left-hand side, and we're going to head into our settings. Most of these things you're going to be able to leave in default, meaning in the way that they were set up when you got the account, but there are some things that I will point out to you that we will need to change, either activate or deactivate. Make sure that require a passcode when scheduling new meetings is set. Don't worry, I'm going to show you how the external tool in Schoology is going to bypass having to have students use a password or ID number to get into your Zoom meeting. We're going to go scroll a little bit more down, and then we're going to leave a lot of these settings in default. Now, this is a recommendation. This is completely optional on your part, but I would recommend leaving your host video on so that your students have somewhere to kind of keep their focus as they're logging in, as they're getting in. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to keep your camera on. You can definitely use an avatar like I am with Lumi Live, or you can have a slide prepared, perhaps with your virtual classroom norms, just as a reminder of what the expectations are for students. I do recommend that you keep participant videos off initially, so that again, as you have more and more people joining your meeting, it's going to require more and more internet bandwidth or access in order to keep a nice clear image on everybody's screen. So instead of having to navigate everybody's camera and microphone being on, all this information coming into the computer, we want to make sure that there's one singular focus point, and that's either you, your beginning cards or slide, and then at least for the beginning of the meeting, the participant's video is off. Scrolling a little bit more down, you can leave these settings and default. Oh, here's one that we need to pay attention to. It doesn't usually happen, but please make sure that join before host is turned off, that it is grayed out. You do not want to allow a meeting to occur where students can start the meeting by joining it and other students can join in and they have time to be in the meeting without you present. So make sure that join before host is grayed out, that it is turned off. We can leave the rest of these in default. Mute participants upon entry is a default option that is turned on. That's for your sanity, to make sure that you're not hearing that cacophony of microphones coming on as students are joining your meeting. Um, please turn on your upcoming meeting reminder. It's going to happen that at some point we're going to lose track of time, and to have a nice little reminder that, hey, you have a meeting in half an hour, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, just a little pop-up that says, hey, I'm coming up, is a good practice to keep in mind. Going down a little bit more, we want to make sure that the chat function is turned on, but that we check off prevent participants from saving the chat. Whatever is maintained in the chat should be only be accessible to you after the meeting, not to the students. We want to make sure that private chat, allowing meetings between participants, is grayed out and turned off. We do not want to allow students to be able to message each other during a Zoom meeting. We also want to turn off auto saving chats. If you need to save a chat, I will show you how to do that during the Zoom session, the sample one that we'll go into. This is that sound notification that I was talking about. So make sure that sound notification when someone joins or leaves is turned on, and that is set to play for everyone. So that you have anybody coming into the waiting room, you'll hear that little bell. That's just that little reminder like, hey, someone's out there waiting to be let in. These we can leave in default. Make sure that co-host is turned on, because if somewhere down the line you want to add in a colleague to either participate in one of your meetings, or maybe to provide support, we want to be able to give them the rights to manage some of the host responsibilities, like assigning students to breakout rooms, or to manage students who may have their cameras on or their mics on when they shouldn't be. The host has the ability to turn video off, and the host also has the ability to mute participants and to make sure that they're not able to reactivate their microphones. We want to make sure that polling is turned on, so you have that option to ask those engaging questions during your Zoom sessions. If we scroll down a little bit more, we want to make sure that screen sharing is turned on, but that initially only the host has the ability to share their screens. You can change this at any time during a meeting, and we'll talk a little bit more when we head into the section on the basic functions of Zoom. We want to make sure that annotation is turned on, and the allow saving of shared screens with annotation is turned on as well. We want to make sure that the whiteboard feature is turned on, and the allow saving of whiteboard content is checked off. Everything else down here we can leave in default. As we head into in-meeting advance, we want to make sure that the breakout room ability is turned on, and that we check off allow hosts to assign participants to breakout rooms when scheduling. And I'll talk a little bit about how we do that once, to schedule your students and get their information, and then be able to assign them to future breakout rooms for future meetings. We'll scroll down a little bit more. A lot of these we can leave in default, again, turned off. Virtual backgrounds. ITD doesn't have a particular stand on this. I would say leave them on. In some cases, not all students are going to have a distraction-free environment as much as we would like. So we might suggest that some of them turn on their virtual background to minimize what is happening behind them. if at all available. Although please make sure that allow use of videos for virtual backgrounds is not checked on. It should be blank. Now the video filters option is something new to version 5.2 of Zoom, and essentially it gives participants of Zoom meetings the ability to use Snapchat and Instagram type filters where they can add little bunny ears to themselves or let little doggy tongue. Um, and for the most part, that's going to be very, very distracting. There are options or times where that might be useful if we're doing maybe like a program fun Friday, and we wanted to add some sort of extra fun component to it. Everybody can come in and be a pirate if you want them to. As we go further down, we're going to leave these options in default. And that's it. With that said, that's all the settings that we need to make sure are adjusted in our Zoom account. Once we have these all set, you won't ever have to set them again. You only have to worry about or concern yourself with making any changes to any of the settings that we have just set. All right, with that said, we're going to go ahead and now jump into practicing our Zoom functions. And we'll begin with looking at the poll function. And what we're going to do, since we're still on our Zoom website, lausd.zoom.us, we're going to go ahead and click on meetings. And we're going to click on today's meeting. And you can do this for any meetings that you've already created or meetings that you are in the process of creating. If you scroll all the way down, you will see an option for poll next to live streaming. All the way to the right, we're going to see an option to add. So we're going to go ahead and click on add. And here we're going to type in the name of our poll. This is our test poll. And our first question is going to be, how are you doing today? And we're going to set it for multiple choice and say, great. All right. Meh. Sleepy. And I can continue adding questions to this particular poll, but in this case, since we're just testing the function, I'm going to save the poll. And then I'm going to jump over to mrparra.org for this part because unfortunately, when you're on a Zoom meeting, you cannot see the hostess controls. You only see gray boxes, which is a little annoying, but we've figured out ways to go around it. So I've pre-recorded the deployment of the poll function, and then we'll go ahead and use the poll in our session. So right next to the box marked participants, you're going to see a button for polls. All we have to do is click on that button, and you see up here, there's a downward pointing arrow. If I click on that, it opens a drop-down menu that shows me the sets of polling questions that I've created. So if I go down to the one that we created, polling 3 sample questions, then it shows me all the questions that I've created under this poll. And all I have to do at this point is launch the poll. The poll will not be visible to participants. They're able to answer and interact with it. Please note, though, that you must have access to the application either on your phone or on your PC or Mac in order to use this function for participants. If participants are logging in using the web function, they will not see the poll. So as people are answering the questions of the poll, It gives me a timer, shows me how long this poll has been active. When I've decided that, we're about done taking submissions, I'm just going to go ahead and click the end polling button. And then I have two choices. I can either share the results with the participants, or I can relaunch the poll question. But that's it. The whole process of both creating, deploying, and sharing the results are just a mere set of buttons that are within the user interface that makes it very easy to use. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you found it useful. Okay, enough of that guy. Let's go ahead and launch today's poll. And if you have the app and you see that poll in front of you, go ahead and interact with it for a second. While you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the chat and see that there are some questions on here. Okay, polling did not show up on my screen. All right, Mr. Quinlan, what we're going to do is at the end of this session, you and I are going to take a look at your computer and make sure that that you've converted your account and that your options are the same that everybody else has with the licensed account. Today's meeting does not show up. Yes, because you don't have access to the meeting that I created and scheduled. You only will be able to see your own meeting. So when you create your meeting, you will be able to see that poll function within your own meeting. Okay. Wonderful. A lot of energy and a lot of in between. I can totally understand that. It's been a 12-hour day for me with book distribution, device distribution. So I get it. It's tough. But thank you so much for our pushing through for us. All right, we're going to go ahead and end that poll, and I'm going to share those results. And this is, again, just one of those quick little things that you can use to do a quick check for understanding. You share a question out, provide some answers, get a feeling of what students understood from the material you just presented to them, or just get a poll of information or ideas about what they thought about what you just presented. And the thing about the poll questions is they can be created before you start the meeting, or they can be created during the meeting. So let's say that you go into breakout rooms and students are discussing an essential question. Well, while they're doing that, you can jump onto the lausd.zoom.us website, and in no time at all, you're going to add a question to ask them, how was that process of working with your colleagues? Were you able to come to a consensus? If not, that yes or no. And then from that, you can move forward to more in-depth questions. Excuse me. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. And we're going to move on to annotation unless somebody has a question regarding polls. Does anybody have any questions regarding polls? And at this time, you are more than welcome to turn your microphones on so that you don't have to type your questions all out. Okay, we're pretty much set on the poll function. Good. So for this next part, I am going to need a volunteer from our wonderful participants. I'm going to stop sharing in a moment, and I would like one of you to share your screen, and we're going to talk a little bit about using annotations on the screen. So let me go ahead and stop sharing and turn on the ability for you guys to share. And at this time, again, I'm going to invite one of you to go ahead and share your screen. Ms. Tatiana, no, unfortunately, there is no setting in Zoom that requires participants to keep their video on. I know there's a brave soul out there that is just waiting to jump on and share their screen. Okay, Miss Anderson, would you be a dear? Would you be able to share your screen with us? Oh, someone beat you to it. Okay, wonderful. Oh, and we jumped into the whiteboard function. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the rest of us, what I want you to do is I want you to use your mouse and you're going to point it to the top of the screen. You're going to see a green line that says you are viewing Miss Gant's screen. To the right of that, you're going to see view options. Go ahead and click on that. And you'll see an option to annotate. Go ahead and click on that annotate option. You're going to get a toolbar that's going to give you a bunch of tools. Go ahead and play with those tools. See what you can do on the screen. Okay, at the point that we start to annoy our brave volunteer, I'm going to show you how to stop that when you reach that point where we need to move on. So, Scan, can you do me a favor? You're going to move your mouse all the way to the top of the screen. You're going to see your host options. And whoa, all right, okay. Well, what she would have seen is she would have seen her host options, and there she would have seen the three dots that would demark the more button, and pushing that more button allows you to access the disable annotation functions. And what that'll do is it'll prevent any of the participants from continue to write on the screen or add anything else. And then at that point, Scan can clear the screen or save a screenshot of the materials that were added to the screen. So this is yet again another way to kind of either introduce a visual graphic organizer where students can make connections between ideas, or get them to share thoughts, comments, concerns, and it really all it depends on your imagination and how you view the use of this tool. But it is one of those things that kind of breaks that sometimes slow pace of a Zoom meeting, to all of a sudden be able to jump on and be able to add something tangible to what you're working on, so that it doesn't just become kind of a one-way um, street through this whole Zoom session. Yes, there is a quick way to turn annotations off. Thank you so much for asking. Again, uh, the host is going to quickly just go up to the thing. There is a shortcut function. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but if you mouse over the disable annotation function, it should show you what the shortcut is on the keyboard, and it'll be a two key press. So feel free to check that out. But other than that, we're going to go ahead and exit full screen. And we're going to share our main screen again. Any questions regarding the annotation or whiteboard function? Now, the difference between the regular annotation is whatever you're sharing with your students on the screen, be it this web page, a map, an equation, students can write on top of that. Whereas the whiteboard just gives you that white base to work with. And so that's more useful if you're, again, trying to create those thinking maps or trying to visualize connections. I'm going to go ahead and refer back to the chat one more time. Where is the quit annotations function? Thank you for asking. So as the host, the quit annotations function is in your host buttons, which are always at the top of the screen. So if you put your mouse towards the top of the screen, you'll see your host functions buttons, and you're looking for the button marked more. Once you put your mouse over the more button, you'll see the ability to disable annotation for others. Thank you for the question. Any other questions or concerns regarding annotation or the whiteboard function? Okay. All right, let's go back to our PD Noodles and okay, the chat, we're using that right now, exactly how we want to use it. And this is going to be a moment where I'm going to kind of make a recommendation to you. If you are not yet aware of Donors Choose, it is a wonderful resource to find people out there who are being incredibly generous during this time to support you, your students in your classroom. As you can see, over the last 2-3 months, I've been able to fund one, two, three, four, five different projects, each over $500. I'm telling you, take the time today, get yourself a second monitor, especially if you're planning to do a lot of interactive activities during your Zoom meetings. You're gonna need that screen real estate, and it's gonna help out a lot. Send me a message, and I wanna put my email address in the chat. If you need help creating your campaign, if there's any specific wording that you're having issues with, let me know. I'm more than happy to help you out and to make sure that you are, finding ways to get that outside source of funding. Because I know your schools are doing the best that they can, but that they're not always going to be able to provide you. We know that we spend out of our own pockets a lot of the time, so it's always good to find these resources that work really well. All right, back to our meeting. All right, I think we've covered everything we need to cover for basic participation in Zoom functions. So now I'm going to jump over to the LMS Schoology so we can talk a little bit about how ITD and the district is recommending that we set up our Zoom links within our classes. So I'm going to open up a new tab. And we're going to navigate to lms.lausd.net. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and select courses. And I have a sample course already created for grades 6 through 12. And I'll talk a little bit about the history links or the buttons a little later. But basically, these are visual buttons that you can create and link out to other sources to make it easier and a little more visually appealing for your students to access websites, videos, or forms that you want to share with them so that you don't have just the usual boring links. All right, so how do we embed or create our Zoom recurring meetings? We're going to go to our materials section in our course, and we're going to use the drop-down menu, add materials, and go down to where it says add file /link/external tool. And in this case, we're going to go ahead and click on external tool. And there's only two things we need to do on this pop-up. Right here where it says tool provider, we're going to click on that and scroll all the way to the bottom to where it says Zoom meeting. And in the title, for naming conventions, we're going to go ahead with teacher's name, Mr. Parra's history Zoom link. And that's it. There's nothing else that we need to fill in at this time. So just selecting the tool, Zoom meeting, and filling out the title. And we're going to head and click on submit. Doing that is going to create this new resource, which we're going to click, hold the left mouse button, and we're going to drag this to the top because we want this to be at the top. And actually, there is something else I want to add to that. So I'm going to click the little spoke next to the tool name, hit edit, and I want to change this to start here to make it very clear that this is the first thing that students need to interact with. I'm going to save the changes, and I'm going to head and click on the tool link. and this is going to open up Zoom within Schoology. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and on the right-hand side, we're going to click schedule a new meeting. Topic is already set, is going to be the course name. And now we just need to set the recurrence. So we're going to set this to start on the first day of school, which is August 18th. And whatever time your first period is occurring, depending on which schedule your site accepted, is what you're going to set here as your time frame. So for example, mine would be 8:30. It'll be an hour. And we're going to go ahead and then under time zone, we're going to click on recurring meeting. We're going to change the recurrence from daily to weekly so that we can select which days of the week we'll be meeting. Now, at the middle school level and at the high school level, we're going to be meeting or seeing our students well, we're going to see classes every day, but students are going to see us every other day. So let's say, for example, I'll see them on Tuesdays and then Thursdays for this first period for those odd days. If your site, for example, picked in odd day on a Tuesday and an even day on a Wednesday. The other important part here is the end date. We're going to go ahead and click on that and set the end date for the last day of the semester, which is December 18th. We're going to make sure a password is set. Host video is turned on, participant video is turned off. That enable join before host is not checked on, and that mute participants upon entry is checked on. Now, this is the other important component to this scheduling, and that's the alternative host. For most school sites, your alternative host is either going to be one of your administrators over your department or the SAA. And I'll tell you why. The alternative host is the only other person that can start your Zoom meeting when you are not available. So if you are going to be out, absent for whatever reason, there needs to be someone else at the school site or somewhere that can start your meeting, hand that meeting off to a substitute, and then be able to leave and come back to begin the other sessions as necessary. So this alternative host is very important. Now, please check in with your site administrator to see what plan is set up at your site, who your designated alternative host is. And then we're going to go ahead and click save. Once we click save, you'll see that here, even within the embedded Zoom in Schoology, you have that poll function. You are only going to be able to create your poll questions, though, at the lausd.zoom.us website. But you can see what questions you've created for the upcoming meetings inside Schoology. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click on materials to go back. And once again, now that I click on this, then as the teacher, this is where I'm going to start my sessions. And then we have a question from the chat. Should a passcode be necessary since this is a recurring meeting? Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because even though your meeting is protected by that firewall, there's still ways for hackers to randomly select different Zoom ID numbers. And there's a chance, although be it small, that someone can enter the meeting when no password is set. The password allows for one extra layer of security. Your students don't have to put that password in because it's all embedded in Schoology, but it provides one extra layer of security in case someone who is not supposed to be joining that meeting is doing so. And again, this is at random. and then getting into the meeting and creating any kind of chaos. We want to avoid any situation where someone who's not supposed to be in your meeting is in your meeting. Okay. So from here, all you as the instructor have to do is hit that start button and your meeting will be started. And then at that point, students can join in, and I'll show you what it looks like from the student view. If you look at your course picture, underneath it is course options, and you have the option to view a course as. In this case, I have a couple of students already put in. And if I click on the link, then there on their screen, it just says join. That's all they have to do. They click join and they are placed into that meeting. So I was asked to go over the process one more time. So I'm just going to go through it again. So inside materials in your course, so heading back out, selecting your course. In your material section where you begin, you go to add materials, down to add file, link, external tool, and you're going to select external tool. When you get this pop-up under tool provider, we're going to click in that drop-down menu. We're going to scroll all the way down and select Zoom meeting. We're going to set a title that is very clear that we want students to start here. And then we don't need to fill anything else out. We click submit. And then our tool always starts at the bottom. We click on it with the left mouse button and we can drag it to the top. And then once we click on it, then we have the option to schedule our recurring meetings. Now, unfortunately, you will have to repeat this process for every one of your period classes so that each of them has a unique recurring link. But the good thing about it is once you set up your recurring meetings from the beginning towards the end, you won't have to schedule them again. They'll be set. And just because the meeting says it starts at 8:30, if you ever need to use this link again, you can always hit start on any of these and have students use the join button, any of the join buttons at any time. As long as you've started a session, they can join a session. So you can use this for your office meetings if you need to. Of course, there's an easier way, and I can show you how to share that particular link for your office hours. But you can always use this link outside of this time. This time is really only adding meaning to this schedule. But this link can be used at any time, as long as you as the host has started the meeting. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and delete this top one. I'm going to show you how I created these little buttons so that students can click on them and reach resources outside of Schoology, or they can reach resources within Schoology. You can create these little buttons and have them visible on your screen, and you can link them to your Nearpod, to Newsela, or to the members section. I know that for some of you that might be unnecessary because your students are well versed in their ability to use the menu on the left. But some of our younger students or some of our students in the alternative, in the special education program might benefit from having more visually appealing links or buttons. So let me show you how we did this. So we're going to go ahead and open a new tab. And we're going to use a Google Docs shortcut called doc.new. And all we're telling Chrome is that, hey, please open up a new Google document. Once you've done that, I'm going to go ahead and increase the size of my screen a little bit. We're going to go ahead and hit Insert, Image, and we're going to use the search the web function. And again, that's under insert image, search the web. And we're going to get our search engine open within our Google Doc. And for example, we would say Google Classroom, find a nice logo, select it, get that check arrow, click insert. We get that button. We're going to scale it down a little bit so it's not so big. And then we're going to open the classroom.google.com page and copy that link. In fact, if you want it, if your kids were already set up with your Google Classroom, if you are choosing to use Google Classroom, you can actually link them directly into the course. But for now, we're just going to use the dashboard link. We're going to go back to our document. And here's where the magic happens. All we have to do is right click, go down to link. And in this box, we're going to right click, paste. And that's our classroom.google.com link. We're going to apply. And now this is a functional button. So all I have to do to add it to Schoology is select it, right click, copy it, go to Schoology. And this time I want to show you how to do an update. I'm going to click my updates section. I get my word box. In that word box, I can click anywhere. I can right click, paste. Now I have my button embedded in. And I'll show you a little trick. If you click on this word bubble with the plus sign on it, you'll get the mark course update as an announcement. What happens when you mark an update as an announcement and click on post is that it will park it at the top of your materials page so that as soon as students open the course, it's the first thing they see at the top of the class. And this shortcut, if you click on it, it's going to open that Google Classroom. It can open to a video. It can open to a website. It can open to your email address so that students can email you directly. There's a lot of things that we can do with this button function. And really the imagination is the only limitation. Is there anyone who has maybe an idea of what they might want to do with this that we can try out? Okay. All right, then we do have a question on the chat that says if teachers add in additional members into the course, can they also manage these functions? And the answer is yes. So right now I only have a couple of people that I've added into this test course, but I'm going to add one more. What you got to do is by default, you're set at your own school site, but you can change this to add members from other school sites. But I'm going to go ahead and stick with Stephen White Middle School. And I'm actually going to bring in a colleague of mine, Miss Anderson. And I'm going to add her as a member. Now, to give her the ability to manage functions within my course, all I have to go do is on the spoke to the right-hand side is click on that, make admin. Once I click on that make admin function, I'm going to ask to confirm. And now Miss Anderson has the ability to manage the course just like I am. She can create materials, she can post updates, she can create assignments or grade assignments. She can message members and members can message her. So hopefully that answered your question. I'm going to go back to my materials. I see we're not very moved by the static buttons, so I'm going to have to kick this up a little bit and bring in the GIFs. People love the GIFs, and we're going to do what the internet does, and we're going to find cats. And I'm going to choose this cat image. And we do need the actual link for this to work. But if we go back to our document and paste, whoops, sorry, wrong function. If I go to insert image and go down to where it says by URL. All that means is, where is this image located? So when I'm pasting the link, I'm telling Google, this is where the image is. Please retrieve it. So I'm going to go ahead and insert. And I'm going to link this to the Stanford History Education Group website. Copy. Right click, link, paste, apply. And then I'm going to copy my button, go back to Schoology, and I'm going to remove my previous announcement. And I'm going to add a new one. Make sure that I ring the bell to put it at the top of my materials. And now I have a more visually moving button that students can still click on and visit the resource that I want them to navigate to. No reaction to the motorcycle cat? Okay. All right, moving on. Let's see. So we've talked a little bit about the external tools function to schedule recurring meetings. We've talked a little bit about using folders to organize shortcuts. That's this function right here. This is called a page in Schoology. And what that does is you're telling Schoology, instead of hiding my materials behind a click, I want to see those materials on this front page. The way we do that is we go to add materials and down to add page. And we're going to title a page, and this could be easy buttons. And anything we paste here, as long as we click on display on new page, will be displayed out. Now, let's say that you want to add a function to hide these buttons in between sessions, or so that it doesn't take too much space. Well, then all you have to do is use the drop-down menu, use add folder, name your folder, create. And now if we drag this folder up, I can drag my links into this folder. And now I can make those links disappear or reappear as necessary. I can do the same thing with this page. So now that all my links are inside that folder. So then again, it's something that just changes things up within your Schoology environment and makes it a little more appealing, a little more palatable to you and to your students. Another thing that I'd like to call your attention to is an application called Adobe Spark. And Adobe Spark is actually linked inside that tool I just showed you. And this is we're just going to search in Google for Adobe Spark. And Adobe Spark is a free visual design application. It is completely web-based, and both students and teachers have free access using their LAUSD email or their student MyMail email account. And with this, you can create all kinds of wonderful graphics using pre-made templates. So let's say, for example, the option that I use the most is the Instagram post graphic, just because all that does is it tells the program that I want a box-shaped icon or box-shaped design. And then all I can do is search the Spark templates for ideas. And it gives me all these wonderful templates that I can select from, hit create. And once I have that template up, all I have to do is click on the different elements and I can go ahead and change it. So for anything that is text-based, all I have to do is double click and I can change the text. Click done, and the text is automatically changed. I can move images around. I can go to my plus icon on the upper right-hand corner and add text, photos, icons, or logos. And in this case, I've preloaded our school logo into this because we do a lot of our Instagram posts, our Facebook posts, or graphics that we put on our website or buttons, and we create them in using this application. So we want to make sure that we brand all of our materials for recognition. The other neat thing about this is that when you are selecting your text, maybe you don't know what font you want to use. You want some ideas. Well, Spark gives you this option on the right-hand menu called Style. And it gives you this little wheel that all you have to do is spin around and gives you different fonts, sizes, and colors so that you can try out different ideas that fit within the theme of the color scheme that you're working with. So this is a good way to kind of go through different options and find interesting or unique visuals that kind of go together and allows you to create these very very rich graphics that you can use in all sorts of components within your class or outside your class. If you are dealing with maybe a leadership course and you're doing some social media outreach, this is also a good way or a good resource for students who are working on visual projects to kind of take some of the burden off having to build things from entirely from scratch, and really puts them more of a, okay, what kind of message am I trying to communicate out with these graphics, with these pictures? The other wonderful thing about Adobe Spark is that there is a function to create videos online as well as web pages. And all of these functions come with templates, come with built-in guides, so that there are continuing supports both for you as an instructor and for the student as they're exploring these different applications. So just one more thing to take with you today. One last thing that I want to put out there for you is this application called kamiapp.com. And for those of you who maybe are not familiar with Kami, Kami is an application that the district just purchased a license for, a district-wide license. What it allows you to do is allows you to assign PDFs as an assignment from Schoology, and then through Kami allows students to edit those PDFs with text, with drawings, with images. It also has a built-in reader, so that if you assign a text that has a questions component to it, the application can actually read the text to the student at varying speeds, or can read along with them. And that's one of those embedded supports for some of our learners who might have a bit of an issue with reading. So let me show you how that works in Schoology. So if I were to create a assignment using the add materials, add assignment function, I already have my Kami function right here. All I did to do that is I'm using the Chrome browser. I put in Kami Chrome extension, and I have a how-to tutorial on how to do this on the mrpara.org website. I'm going to click on Kami PDF Chrome extension, and I already have it installed. I'm going to remove it. All you have to do is, once you get to this page, is add to Chrome, add extension, and that's it. I also have a video from the student's perspective on how to set this up. They do the same thing. They search on their Chromebook for the Chrome Kami extension. They click add. Once it's added, they don't need to do anything else in the future. We go back to Schoology. I'm going to put in Kami test. And I'm going to assign from Kami. I'm going to log in with my digital, my LAUSD SSL. And I can either select my document from within my Google Drive, or I can upload it from my computer. So I'm going to search recent. I have some ELA assignments. Actually, I'm going to look for opinion, social media. I have an assignment that I created that we can use as a sample. Here we go. I'm going to select. Kami is going to go ahead and convert that file. I'm going to go ahead and set a due date, category, and I'm going to create. Now notice that this assignment will create a copy for each student registered to the course. So when students see the assignment and open it up, they'll see this button that says open assignments with Kami. All they have to do is click on that. It's going to open the Kami website, convert the file. And now, again, for any text that I see, I have my text-to-speech function along with my accessible dictionary. Anything that I select,
Facebook, Twitter, and other
the
social media
program
sites have
will
become
read.
an integral part of teenage culture.
I can adjust the
Yet,
speed
the
and the
snarky
voice.
comment or inappropriate picture we
I'm going to go ahead and stop that. But students can mark up text simply by highlighting it. They can underline, they can strike through it, they can do what's called a box highlighter, so they can highlight a whole section. They can also change or add colors. They can use the eraser function. They can write on top of this. They can add in equations. So if you're working with a mathematics worksheet, they can add in functions. They can add in images as well as signatures, as well as shapes. So if I go down to the section that has the text box, I can add my text box in, and students can actually type on top of this. And once that is done, then we're going to go ahead and use the turn in function. Somebody asked, is this the same as attaching a Google Doc assignment? In a way, yes, but I know that some of us in the past have dealt with issues with access to Google resources on the students' part, where we have had students who, for whatever reason, are not able to access their Google copies. And then we have to end up making separate copies for them and sharing them directly to the student. This bypasses that by minimizing the number of things that need to be accessed. So there are no accounts involved in this. This is just if you have the resource extension entered into the browser, then you can access these tools, and all you're doing is writing on top of the PDF. And the additional component to this that makes it a little more useful is that you don't have to do any conversions. So if you have some PDFs that were great assignments in the past that you can reuse parts of, you can kind of breathe new life into them without having to convert them into editable Google resources. Now, since this is embedded into Schoology, there is a turn in function. And when you turn this in, this is accessible within Schoology and graded within Schoology. And once it's graded, that grade goes straight into your grade book. So I'm not suggesting you don't use Google Docs. Google Docs are great, especially within Schoology. But in those rare cases where you know that there are a number of students within your class that have difficulty accessing Google Documents, then this is an alternative to that, so that you can make things a little easier on yourself and still be able to collect that information, that data from the students' practice. Okay, I'm going to go back to my thing, and it looks like at this point we've covered everything that we have on our agenda. The last thing is the changing your course icon. And again, it's just adding a little more flair to your classes, a way to differentiate one period from the rest so that students have an easier time navigating this. So if you see nothing but that sea of blue backgrounds with the books, things get lost in that. But if you start differentiating your course icon, you make it easier for students to navigate within this user interface. So to do that, we would select our course, and then we're just going to mouse over that course image. We can click on Edit Picture, and I can either select one of the standard images or I can attach one. And I pre-made a button within Spark that has just this very intense looking tiger with its little eyes just staring right at you, and just simply the word science down the middle. And this button, I'll tell you right now, the standard button size for Schoology is 350 by 350, just so you know. At this time, I think I've covered everything that is within that agenda that we had at the beginning. We're reaching about that usual endpoint. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions. So if there are any questions regarding anything that was covered today, or if you have any other questions within the realm of Schoology or applications embedded within Schoology or Zoom, please unmute yourself, share.
Hi. Hi. I just wanted, I was the one that was asking about, I don't have an LAUSD account. I'll have one Friday. I'm getting contracted Friday morning. So you said this is going to be on like recorded. Is it in LAUSD then where you're going to post it?
So it's posted in a couple of different places. It'll be posted on the mrpara.org website.
Okay.
It's also going to be posted on the Community of Schools YouTube webpage. So if you just search for Community of Schools Carson, and I can also email this out, you're going to get this nice, wonderful page, and our videos will be posted here too.
Okay. So then I'll be able to watch the video and set up mine once I get it.
Yes, and if you're looking just for the tutorial on how to set up the Zoom external tool, if you actually go back to the mrpara.org website, we have just specific setups for creating your assignments within Schoology, setting up that, and I'm going to go back to the main page, setting up your LAUSD account and doing the embedded recurring Zoom links using the external tool. So if you want just that little component, we have those specific tutorials already prepared for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Daniel, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Back in June, I signed up for a Zoom basic account and started taking some classes during the summer session, Zoom classes. Now you've introduced the lausd.zoom.us. can I actually have two accounts? One is the original Zoom account and one is the lausd.zoom.us account. Can I have two Zoom accounts?
Only if you used a different email to sign up for that original Zoom account. Because what's going to happen is once you use your SSO in the lausd.zoom.us site, it's going to ask you, do you want to merge the two accounts if you're using the same email? Because it's going to detect that you have another account.
Okay.
So it's going to ask you to merge.
So if I use the Gmail account for the original Zoom and use the LAUSD email for the new LAUSD Zoom account, that would be okay. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, so it's actually better possibly to have two accounts.
Yes, just know that are you paying on that original account?
Well, it's a basic account, it's free.
Okay, so that you just know that your LAUSD has the time limit removed, and that you're able to do the recurring meetings up to a year. So you can create recurring meetings that occur from the beginning to end, a year span, just so you know.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, somebody asked about the interactive avatar. Thank you so much for reminding me about that. I almost completely forgot. So we're going to go to Google and just search for Lumi Live. And we're going to look for this Get Interactive with Lumi Live webcam. And you're actually going to need two things. So you're going to need the software for your Mac or PC, and you're going to need the app on your phone, because you actually create your app. You create your avatar on the phone app, and then you access it using the software on either your Mac or your Windows device. And to use it with Zoom, all you have to do is when you click the option button next to the video icon, you'll see a select a camera. Once you install the Lumi software, you'll see the option to use the Lumi Live camera. And you don't need to have a web camera for this to work. What happens is that the software reads the cadence of your voice, and that's how it generates the movement of the mouth, syncs it. And the more energized you are with your voice, the more the hand gestures occur with the avatar. Somebody asked, review the steps to incorporating an animated Jiffy embedded into Schoology. Absolutely no problem. So to embed a GIF into it, and again, let's look, I'm going to use this cool cat. Oh, no, I'm going to use the driving cat. Yes. You're going to go to Jiffy. You search for your GIF that you want to use. GIF. All right, we're not going to get into that. We're going to go to the copy link function, because we need the GIF link. We need the link telling us where is this resource located. We're going to go ahead and copy it. And then we just need a Google document to do our edits. Oops, sorry, I made that mistake again. You're going to go to Insert Image. And again, that's Insert Image. And we're going to go down to by URL. And again, all we need by URL is what is the address? Where is this image located? So I'm going to paste the link that I got from the Jiffy website, again, GIF link, into my Google Doc, and then I'm going to insert. Now, this I can already embed into Schoology without having to turn it into a button. So let's say that I wanted to create an update and say, hello, students, welcome back. I look forward to us driving to success this year. No. Then all I have to do is right underneath it, I'm going to go ahead and go back to my document, selected, right click, copy. And then where did my, oh, I closed it off. All right, updates. Welcome back, students. Then all I have to do is right click, paste, and that'll put in my GIF. All I have to do is hit post, and those are there's my GIF. So you can't add it directly, so we have to add it through a Google document. Mrs. Harris, does this answer your question? Okay, great, wonderful. Any other questions? And then if we wanted to take the extra step of just linking this to something, then we just right click on the image and use the link function. And we'll link this to lms.lausd.net. Any other questions?
Hello, could you go over the buttons? Where do you put them?
I'm sorry, one more time.
Could you go over where do you insert the buttons once you have it?
Oh, yes, thank you. Wonderful question, thank you. So, so what we do for the buttons is there's a couple of places. So unfortunately, the update announcement function, which puts the button at the top of the screen, you can only have one of those at any one time. If we want to have them like we do here with the easy buttons, we need to create what's called a page. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And I'm going to do add materials, add page. And you give your page a title. So this will be easy buttons. And this is where I would paste my buttons. Now, in order to create your buttons, you need to go to Google. You can either use the insert image search the web to pull images from the search function, or if you want to create your buttons from GIFs, then you would get those from Jiffy. So that's just jiffy.com. So for example, let's say I wanted to create 3 buttons here. So I'm going to resize this. So all I have to do to resize anything is click on it. I get these squares around it. I'm going to click on one, hold the left button and drag down till I've resized this. I'm going to resize this one a little bit too so it fits a little bit better. And then in this case, 3, you can just add 3. And the way you would do that is you're just going to use the keyboard shortcut Control-A, which is going to select all the images. And then you're going to right click, copy. Once you've copied all the buttons that you've created, you're going to go back to Schoology, and in this create page function, in this in the area where you would add your text, all you have to do is do right click, paste. It's going to put your buttons all in one spot, and then you can hit create. Oh, and I forgot one component. So I'm going to go back and edit. And this is very important. You have to make sure that you click on display on new page. This is what forces Schoology to post that information on that main page instead of hiding it behind a link. Okay, and that's how you create your buttons. Now, if you want to rearrange them, we can go settings, edit, and I can move them around. I might have to resize them a little bit, so that they fit. And I might decide to get rid of one so that these fit a little bit better. But you have the option of organizing them however you want. Save changes. And those are my buttons. I click on this one, it takes me to the Stanford History Education website page. I click on this one, and it takes me to Schoology. I'm going to go back to course. Now notice that this does not have a way for us to hide it. The way that we hide these buttons when we want to is we add materials, add folder. Pick a folder. We're going to call this easy buttons. Create. And then all we have to do is drag our easy buttons inside the folder. And sometimes Schoology is a little more accommodating than others. There we go. Got it. And then you get this little arrow next to your folder. All you have to do is click that, hides the buttons, hit it again, and it brings the buttons out. Hopefully that answered your question.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we have the next question that says, when students annotate, can you see who is doing so? Yes, so the annotation function, there is a setting that allows you to mark or identify who is adding the annotation. And so when you download the copy, it has a list attached connected to who wrote what or who used what tool. Can annotations have preset filters? Unfortunately, at this time, Zoom does not have that option integrated. So that's one of those things that we're going to have to anticipate through the building of norms, and then using that annotations connection to names. All right, any other questions? Again, I want to point out that I do have some guides. So we have all the previous sessions available on the mrpara.org website, as well as the Carson Community of Schools YouTube page. On the mrpara.org, we also have a ton of tutorials for Schoology, as well as resources for students and resources for parents when using Schoology. Along with that, we also have some very neat Zoom tutorials. And of course, if you have any other questions or you feel like, Mr. Para, I'd like a guide for X skill, please just reach out to me. And again, I'll put in that email address in the chat. And it might take me a little bit to respond to you right now, just because as we're getting ready to reopen, there's a lot of moving parts that are occurring, but I promise you, I will reply. I will provide you your guide or whatever other resource you need. Are there any other questions? Oh, that's an interesting question. So at this time, Zoom has not added the function to take student attendance. That is something that they're working on, and they're working with the district to use the students' MyMail accounts for them to log into Zoom through Schoology, and that will provide the attendance feature. So what it does is it tracks when the student has used their MyMail account to log into a Zoom session, and then captures that information. But that's not on there yet. For people who are just starting out with Zoom, I would recommend these two excuse me, it's been a long day. These two initial tutorials, the one setting up your settings and embedding the recurring Zoom link using the poll function and the annotation tool. That's basically what you need as a beginning tutorial for Zoom, just getting your head around those basic tools. because once you get a feel for how to use those tools, then you can use your creativity to kind of branch out using those simple tools to do more engaging activities with your students. But it all begins with, taking that first step, practicing using the Zoom meeting functions, and becoming comfortable with them. All right. If there are no further questions, I don't want to hold you up. Thank you so much again for coming by and spending this time with us, asking all these wonderful questions that allow us to explore these different aspects of Zoom and Schoology. Please enjoy your evening. I will stick around if anybody wants to stick around and ask any questions. Otherwise, thank you so much. And please tell your colleagues we have another one of these tutorials, the last one actually tomorrow afternoon from 4 to 6. All right. Have a great day. Ms. Kumbao, for Kami, you're just logging on with your LAUSD single sign-on as a Google account.
Thank you, Mr. Park.
You're welcome.